In the last part, Lloyd used the summon skill and was finally able to get a new summon. Lloyd asked Goming to show its skills. Goming ignored him, sat on the ground, tells Lloyd that he did not care, and asks Lloyd why should he be born for labor and live a life of labor. Lloyd was confused as this creature was behaving differently than the other summons. Podong tries to cheer it up and tells him the perks of serving Master Lloyd, due to which Goming was motivated and tells him that he will try it then. But now Goming was back in the same state. Podong comes out of Lloyd's pocket and tells him to try to do a little more together. Goming tells him that he does not wish to work so hard and tells him that there is no need for him to do hard work to change the world as it will advance on by itself even if they did not work. Lloyd was agitated and thinks of cooking the bird. Podong rushed towards him and told him to not think like that, but Goming mocks him and spits a stick at him. Podong tells Lloyd to give him something, and Lloyd agrees on it. Lloyd fed him the red almond and we see Goming was scared of Podong and started to run away, but Podong grabs his tail and holds it down, and puts his whole head in his mouth. Lloyd was shocked to see such a scene. Goming was on the ground lying helpless dripped in saliva, and Podong asks him if wants to play some more. Goming has no option but to work, and we see the evil side of Podong. Lloyd agreed with Podong and praised him for his work. Now it was time for the construction to proceed. Step 1 was, dig and form a slope, and Step 2, get beyond to use the giant sieve to filter out fine sand. Step 3. After the sand has been filtered, get Goming to lay out the spider webs in a mesh form. Step 4. Let's get Goming so motivation. Lloyd cheered the white cavalry and they strike a flashy pose. Now for Step 5. Use the sand to cover the spider web mesh and repeat this process until the backfilling is completed. Step 6. After making the sturdy backfill and filling it on all the sides, pour boulders and gravel into the gabion rigorously. And finally, they were able to complete the first section. Lloyd was really happy and thought of increasing the tax as soon the employment was raised. And then he can be a super rich unemployed man for the rest of his life. And after a few days of hard work by the White Cavalry, the Frontera County's terraced farmland was finally completed, and the system informs him that he has become one of the best engineers on this continent. Lloyd was really happy imagining his bright future. The system informs him that he has received another title, and it gave the perk that the amount of the harvest in the terraced farmlands have increased by 200%. Lloyd was playing chess in his room alone. Javier was confused and asked Lloyd if it was fun playing alone. Lloyd tells him that it was the best feeling he had since then. Javier tells him to enjoy his nice time and asks him what was he supposed to do next. Lloyd tells him not to worry as Sir Byron will do a great job managing the construction process. Lloyd tells Javier now that everything is going smoothly he can chill for time being. Lloyd remembered what his father said to him in his past life. You must think about whether it's really okay at least once. Lloyd gets up and tells Javier that he has to do something. He tells him that he has to check if it's really okay. And we see Lloyd at the training grounds and is now ready to use the CP points to use his skill-ending spoiler. As he clicked the yes button, he was transformed into a void, and he was in his room. He saw Javier doing something to his body, and was skeptical of what Javier was doing to him. He sensed a crazy amount of mana circulating within Javier. As Lloyd moves further to check what was the matter, he saw Javier in tears and was all stressed out due to this. As he looked at his body, it was all dried up and was on the verge of death. Lloyd asks Javier to stop and tells him that it was futile to keep doing this. Javier tells him to live on and burn something. The future Lloyd didn't know what was he trying to tell him. Lloyd assures him that he has done a great job doing his duty. Javier grabs his hand and starts to cry even more. And we see Lloyd took his final breaths and was dead soon after. All the summons started to cry and disappeared in thin air. In the past, Lloyd knew he has already seen something terrible and he have to analyze it carefully without panicking. Javier lifts Lloyd's corpse, and Lloyd notices that his body was completely dehydrated but was not able to identify why was it. As he followed Javier, there were many corpses in front of the mansion, and we see the Count and Countess lying dead on the ground. Javier gets an oil can and started to put it on each body, and then threw a torch in. And Lloyd thought that it might be some kind of epidemic. He tries to think what must have caused it, but he was a civil engineer and not a doctor. Javier starts to murmur something as Lloyd told him to do so. When all the corpses are completely burned, Javier repeats his words and says, "Remember, empty." Lloyd was shocked to hear it, and then he was transported back to the training grounds. He tries to think of it, and realizes that it was some sort of cryptic message. He knew the future Lloyd was smart enough to leave such a message before passing away. He thinks for a while, and finally, he realized something and thanked the future self. Lloyd was in a meeting with Sir Byron. Lloyd tells him to arrange as many professional quarrymen as possible, and Byron tells him that it will cost them too much if they do so. Lloyd assures him as this is his last option as all the workers and orcs are busy with their mission already. Sir Byron asks him how big of a project is this going to be, and Lloyd tells him that it will be at least the scale of the Honey Apartments. He explained to Byron that they have to work underground and have to make a path for the poop to pass. Lloyd explains to us that in Vienna population increased exponentially, and it entered an era of the Industrial Revolution. But at that time there were no proper sewers in the city, and the urine and poop from the people were disposed of in the Danube River. Usually, the poop will get away and decompose due to the water flow, but due to the sudden cold freezes the river and caused a huge disaster. Since the river was frozen, the waste could not flow and kept melting and freezing again and again, and in the end, it caused rot and polluted the underground water, and that's how cholera happened. Lloyd knew that the population of the county was to increase exponentially, and soon the river might get frozen and due to which the waste will cause cholera in the county. He was confused about what he has to do, but soon he comes up with an idea and uses his inspection skill like a devil. The next day, we see Lloyd laying on this bed and thinking of the huge debt he has now, and is really stressed out due to this. The red-headed orc was working out with a pillar and sees Greg flirting with the other maid, and both of them started to have a good time chit-chatting. The orc was pissed due to this, and one of the soldiers calls out for Greg and tells him that he was being called out by Sir Byron. As Greg was going to work, he is called out by the red-headed orc. The orc was furious as he thought that Greg was cheating on Emily. Greg was confused as he did not know what he was talking about. The orc starts to punch Greg, but he was instantly knocked down. Greg tells the orc that such half-cooked attacks will not work on him, and we come to know that the soldiers of the Frontera County were strong enough after such hard training and can now take enemies at once. The orc gets ready and takes his fighting stance, and so does Greg, and now both of them rush toward each other for blood. Out of nowhere, they are interrupted by Sir Byron, and both of them stopped fighting. Sir Byron tells him to get back to work and tells him he can do other stuff when his shift was completed. We see there is a strong rivalry between both of them. Byron and Greg were at the stable, and Greg asks him if they were going to Cremo to call the reinforcements. He tells him that it was an order from their master Lloyd as he was planning a huge-scale construction. Greg was confused and Byron tells him there was no need to think about it as it was Lloyd who made the decision. The system informs Lloyd that all the achievements he has accumulated are producing a combined effect. Lloyd was confused and we see Greg and his comrades marching to Count's mansion. Lloyd heard a huge noise so he reaches the window to check what was happening. As he peeked out from the window, we see a huge crowd gathered and all cheering his name and telling him they are willing to work for him for free. Lloyd was agitated and tells them to keep quiet. He tells them that there is no need for them to do so as he has already prepared a huge contract for them, and leaves in tears. Here, at Asfahan, a messenger pigeon was sent to the Sultan. As he reads the message, the spies told him that there is a village that overturned their monster domino, and told him that they have various beasts in the village. Also the normal soldiers are so strong that they can defeat the orcs with a single punch, and tells him that the combatants were strong enough to completely destroy the whole world. Sultan was tensed as he was panicking. What the hell is that place? We see that Diego was bullying the villagers and telling them to fight. He mocks them and enjoyed their fight. Out of nowhere, Lloyd joined them. Diego was shocked to see him beside him. Lloyd asks him who were they and why was he bullying them. Lloyd tells him that it was not good to have all the fun alone, and told him he also wants to try it out by himself. Diego tells him that if he fought with the servants they might lose their life. Lloyd tells him that he does not intend to fight them, which sucked the soul out of him. Lloyd tells them that Javier was the one who is going to fight Diego. Javier draws his aura sword and was ready to fight. Diego panicked and asked them to stop. Lloyd was agitated by this and Diego asks for his mercy. Lloyd tells him to fight with him instead of a sword master and asks him who would he pick. Diego was terrified and Lloyd starts to punch him. After some time we see Diego laying on the ground with a little life left. Lloyd writes for Diego to return to the Royal Academy. Diego tried to stop him, but Lloyd frightened him and sent the document to the Highness. Lloyd tells the bullied guys to get to Frontera County and see Sir Byron, as he will give them some sort of a job. Both of them were in tears at his kind act. Lacona had a nightmare and woke up all terrified. He saw Lloyd in his dream and starts to curse him. Someone knocked at the door, and Lacona cursed at them too. He was agitated and gets his whip. But as he opened the door, Lloyd peeked with a terrified smile on his face. Lacona fell to the ground as if he was dead. Lloyd asks Javier if his face was so evil. Javier tells him to stop smiling as it made him uneasy. Lloyd took Lacona to the balcony and tells him that he is going to flatten all the land. Lacona tried to resist, but he was instantly shut down by Lloyd. We see everybody was ready to work to complete the project. Lloyd gives them all the instructions. But the thing was, Lacona's mansion was in its way, so they started to break the mansion, and soon the beautiful mansion was reduced to debris in front of his eyes. Lloyd tells him that all his workers will be moved to his mansion, and he will provide one person with his errands. We see a small tent raised, and in there was the huge elf Malika, and we see both Lacona and his son in one corner shivering. Malika asks them if they need something, and due to their fear they decline her. Lloyd used all his resources to complete the construction as soon as possible. But now the main problem was, what should he do with the sludge? He thinks of Javier and Bangul could be of some help, but they already have their duties assigned. He tries to think of another slave he could use to burn down the sludge every day. He finally realizes something, and he knew what exactly he wanted to do. At the dwarf workshop, Lloyd tells Corgidus to make armor out of Valencia tree sap. Corgidus asks him if he plans on capturing a dragon or something. Lloyd confirms him and says that Javier is going to capture the dragon. Javier was confused and got frustrated as he knew that he was being used by Lloyd. Somewhere deep in the eastern mountain ranges, we see a dreadful dragon. He was emotional as he was unable to refine any gemstones. Due to this, he was unable to get married. He curses at his luck and once again picks up a gemstone to refine it, but he was unsuccessful in doing so. He thought that it would have been easier for him to loot the gemstones from the humans, but he could not, as the being named Dragon King married a human girl and declared dragon's commandments. All dragons are prohibited from plundering and threatening other races. Also, they will have to craft their own jewels if they want to get married and feed them to the hatchlings. The dragon was depressed and really hated the humans. Lloyd has arrived and empathized with the dragon and tells him that he can teach him to craft the jewels. The dragon is agitated and confused about how he was able to get past the traps. Lloyd tells him that they deactivated the traps for the time being. Lloyd tries to give a deal to the dragon Solitas, but Solitas attacks them with all his rage. Lloyd and Javier knew that she had a bad temper, and Javier asks Lloyd what was the plan. Lloyd asks him and comes to know too he has forgotten to tell the plan Javier. Both of them move behind a rock to take cover, and Lloyd explained the plan. In step 1, he has to fight her, and then in step 2, defeats her. Lloyd pushes Javier into the fight, and the dragon is shocked to see Javier still standing. Solitas was furious, and now thinks of attacking Javier with his brute force. Lloyd encouraged Javier and tells him that he can do it. As Javier draws his aura sword, he is attacked by the mighty dragon. Javier dodges all the attacks, which makes the beast uncontrollably angry, and somehow Javier felt like he could do this. Lloyd remembered from the novel how Javier had a hard time defeating the dragon, but still Javier won. Now Javier was much more experienced and powerful as a sword master. Javier deflects all his attacks, and the young dragon Solitas was shocked by his performance. Javier leaps into the air and uses the elf footwork, and then uses his new skill Aura Blast at the dragon. And as the blast incident on the dragon, it felt immense pain and starts to cry over it like a kid. Javier was ready for another attack, but the dragon tells him to stop. It was just like the effect when a beetle attacked a human. The dragon was scared and asks his mercy. Javier was confused about what just happened right now, and as he was thinking, the dragon attacks him, but as he lifts his claw there was nothing under it, and we see Javier was behind him and has prepared another Aura Blast. As he hits the dragon with the Aura Blast, the dragon realizes how much of a big mistake he has committed. Javier spams the Aura Blast on the dragon and punished him for his misbehaving. Lloyd was enjoying the scene and knew what was the dragon going to do next. The dragon uses the smoke screen breath and tries to escape the dungeon. She shifts her shape and it turned out that she was a male. He starts to run away and hides behind the rock. As he tries to escape the dungeon using the teleport skill, he was instantly zapped due to the anti-teleport trap he installed earlier. Lloyd approached the dragon and introduced himself. Solitas tries to play blank and tells them he was not a dragon. Javier uses his aura sword and hurts Solitas. And they confirm that it was the great dragon Solitas, as if someone else would have hurt by the aura sword, things might have not been so easy for him. Lloyd explains to him the problems in the county and tells him that he was there to offer a proposal. Solitas was agitated and tells Lloyd he should have just talked from the start instead of poking him. Lloyd tells him that he was the one in the first place who tried to kill them. Solitas was skeptical, but he asks about what he has for him. Lloyd knew that the great dragon will not let his pride down and use its powers to burn up the poop of mere humans. It seemed as if he has a plan up his sleeves. Lloyd calls Javier and yells at him for attacking the mighty dragon and tells him to go into that corner and get on his knees and raise his hands. Javier was frustrated, but he has to follow his order, as he believed in him. Lloyd asks Solitas to take a seat and have a chat. Lloyd made it look like Solitas was the boss, but he had his own intentions. He asks the young dragon if he wants to get married, and tells him that they knew that he was not good at making jewelry. Solitas panicked and asks Lloyd how the heck he knows so much about him. Lloyd tells him that he will get married in 10 years. Hearing this, Solitas was overjoyed. But he is agitated as it was not the answer to his question. Lloyd uses his skill to change the topic and was successful in tricking the young dragon to sign a contract. As he signed the contract, Lloyd tells him that if he broke the contract, he will have to face the Dragon King's punishment, and was finally able to control the dragon. At the county, the workers were confused as they saw Lloyd returning with a young boy. One of them says that Lloyd has returned with a dragon this time. But they thought it was not possible for that young man to be a dragon. And finally, Lloyd completed his mission and acquired a trash incinerator. A dragon. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching.